You are tuned to Kennett, Zenith Cablevision. Thank you for watching. It's time for talk. Each evening at this time, Monday through Friday, Rosemary interviews local personalities and others who bring items of interest to this community. Time for Talk is a community betterment service designed to cooperate with our local community betterment program. Tonight, Rosemary takes us by means of portable camera out of our studios and maybe into your neighborhood. And now, it's time for Talk.
I'm extremely interested in this series that we hope to do before this year is over. We have been delving back into the history of Dunklin County, and we have come up with some most interesting things, and if it's interesting to me and all of us here in the studios, we think you'll enjoy it. We've been back in time, and we have used for reference sources Douglas' History of Southeast Missouri. We have also used extensively this little book that's a history of Dunklin County from 1845 to 1895. Digging into all of these things, and we hope over a period of time to bring them to you. For this Time for Talk segment tonight, we spent a lot of time in the courthouse. We were interested in what the land looked like when it was originally surveyed. Now, we're going back even further than that in other segments, but this is the original survey. We tried every way we knew to get a composite map of what this land might look like at that period of time, and we could find nothing in existence. Dixie Ross was most kind. In fact, all of the people at the courthouse bent over backwards to see what they could do for us, tried to make Xerox copies of these large books. Dixie is here trying to explain to me how the townships are laid out. And let us show you just a bit of what went on there in the courthouse. As we begin our search back in history for what this land looked like in Dunklin County, particularly the southern portion where from Kennett south that we are particularly interested in, part of our efforts took us to the area of finding maps that might show the land as it was in the early 1800s, before any drainage ditches were cut, before the land was unchanged, when there were just natural rivers and sloughs and swamps anywhere there needed to be, and anywhere there happened to be. One of our searches took us, as we were finding the maps, into the county court. Dixie Ross pulled out one of the oldest books they had on file here, which is Field Notes. This book contains the original government surveys for Dunklin County. Interestingly enough, they have not all been put together, and our search seemingly has been futile to find some composite of the whole area like this. Let's show you a portion of what we find in this book. Opening it up, it's quite interesting. The original government surveys, and we are in the Hornersville area. On this sheet, you are able to see the words swamp called Little River. You see the Little River coming down into this area, and sections 5, 4, and 5 on this area locate a portion of the city of Hornersville. So you see how Little River, in the swamp called Little River, and the overflow area of Little River, you see the location of Hornersville in this area. To locate a portion of the composite map we are going to make, of course, we went through this book rather thoroughly. The township ranges and section numbers tell you that this is the location of the Zenith area. Of course, this dark blot's just an ink blot before this book was really sealed with plastic as it is now. Here's the St. Francis flowing here. Swamp called Seneca Creek is the blue area you are seeing. Then are you able to pick up the swamp called Kennemore Slough? And I like the way they colored in everything. You see the little green lily that. Now this map was done in 1849. The surveyor who submitted it, swamp called Kennemore Slough, and and he drew in the little green lily pads and fronds, meaning this was certainly wet. You come east just a bit and you see swamp called honey cypress, and he has more of those lily fronds showing how wet it was. The third thing on this picture, swamp called Buffalo Creek. And of course you see a much broader area being Buffalo Creek and his lily pads crossing in and out. So in this area, the St. Francis, the Kennemore, the honey cypress, and the Buffalo Creek, all flowing in the same general direction, in the Zenith area. One more let's show you, and then we will show you how we began to take our materials to trace this off. This is readily identifiable by the township and section numbers, the St. Francis River flowing in this direction. Here's Varney's River comes in here. Now Kennett is going to be in this general vicinity right here. In fact, the village of Chillicothe is just on the north edge of this map. Kennett lies in this area. Now you notice on the larger map that Kennett drops off on the west into Varney River, and it drops off on the east into this swamp called Little River. This would be in the area past the golf course, out by what was the Mink Ranch at those times. So Kennett was bounded by two rivers, two sloughs, Varney River, and out of Varney River, in the slow-moving area of Varney River, you had Raglan's Slough, which came down through a portion of Kennett. So the three main water areas, Raglan Slough, are you able to see the outline for Raglan Slough running all the way down here? Now, our plan was to draw pictures of the different areas in these townships, to locate the rivers and the sloughs and the creeks, and to put those together on a composite map to show you the drainage area. To do that, we had to do transparencies of each page in here that had anything to do with what we wanted to talk about. In order to make this composite map of the area, we took transparency sheets, would lay them down on the page that we were interested in, and we will do this for most of the south half of the county. For instance, I have already written on here swamp called Little River as I started this page. And I will draw an outline of the swamp area as it was on the original survey in the field book. Just an outline of Little River. Now remember, this is the Hornersville area. Hornersville lying right in this area. Now here's something in green. What on earth is the green? I don't see a legend on this map. I'm not able to tell at this moment what this green area is. But here's a section of Hornersville and the swamp called Little River. Now, when we take up what we have, we'll have Hornersville lay this over the city of Hornersville, and you will see where the original swamp called Little River ran. Hopefully, we'll have this all together. And so we did a lot of work, and a lot of it was not really profitable, we found out later. I bought tracing paper to begin with and realized that was totally inadequate. From the tracing paper, of course, you saw us go to transparency sheets where I tediously copied every township number and range number. You see on this one I even labeled in the Arbird, town of Arbird, and the swamp called Honey Cypress, and the swamp called Buffalo Creek. And we had a number of transparencies here for every section that we were going to talk about. Then we found in a little book, Campbell's Sectional Topographical Descriptive Atlas of Missouri, that was put in the Library of Congress in 1878, I believe. we found the exact map we were looking for. Here is Dunklin County, you see here. So in a series of Xerox copies and blow-ups, we finally were able to project a map that we could work with. Here's Dunklin County, and the map we finally chose to work with, we have listed here on in a bigger section that I hope you'll be able to tell something about. All right, here is the composite that's put together that we finally found in the Campbell map. That was this is part of a survey of 1843. It says at the bottom of the page. Now let me identify what we have been laboriously putting together. Here you see Kennett, of course, and that might be an easy place to start. You see all of this area, which probably all of this Boot Hill area between the St. Francis and the Mississippi was probably one vast floodplain most of the year. But there were high sand ridges. Now, this first area of blue that I've shaded in is the swamp called Seneca Creek. Then Seneca Creek divided down here into Seneca Creek and Mud Slough. This is the swamp called Kennett. See, all of them drain into the St. Francis. This is the swamp called Honey Cypress, running all the way into the Kennett area. Then here is the swamp called Buffalo Creek. And off of the Honey Cypress, you have what was called, listed coming out of Kennett as the Regaline Slough. And then, of course, the massive thing over here was the swamp called Little River that went on over into Pemiscot County, which, if you were going from Kennett across to Carruthersville, you just couldn't get there from here through most of the year because of this swamp called Little River, which was really a bugaboo to people who tried to go come from Tennessee into the area, because the Mississippi overflowed most of the time. In fact, this little town of Gayoso was the first county seat of Pemiscot County, but the Mississippi finally encroached on the town and covered the whole town of Gayoso, and so the county seat had to be moved. Now, on your map, you have an interesting thing also. You notice in the Carruthersville area there is a shaded area in yellow called Little Prairie. Carruthersville was known to all boat travelers as Little Prairie. Coming back, if you will back up and look at this composite, you see 3 prairie areas in this Boot Hill of Missouri. They are tremendously interesting area. This is in the Caruth area. This was called Grand Prairie. Of course, the Carruthersville area was called Little Prairie. It's much larger. I don't know how about their designation. And you had up in the Malden area West Prairie. Now, the whole matter of prairies is most interesting. Why here in southeast Missouri we had prairie areas? For instance, you are looking right here at an area, Grand Prairie, in the Caruth area. And we're going to talk more about that. There was a bit of a description that talked about grass 3 feet to the height of a man on horseback and what all grew on these prairies. And you'll find this fascinating history. We'll look more into that in the next section.
You have been watching Time for Talk.